Assalamu alaikum and hi viewers, this is Sajjad Hussain and you are watching my YouTube channel. Welcome to this next episode on The Rape of the Lock by Alexander Pope. Viewers, in today's video, I'm going to discuss with you a very important aspect of the poem, which is supernatural machinery. Supernatural elements are there in the poem, and these constitute an important aspect of this mock epic. I discussed with you in the first lecture that supernatural machinery is a part of epic traditions, and this poem is a mock epic. So, supernatural elements are there in this mock epic, but like all other epic conventions and all other epic traditions, this is also presented at a smaller scale, at a trivial scale, at a miniature level. And in the poem, supernatural elements are of quite unusual kind. These are not found frequently anywhere. In epics, we do find witches and demons and fairies and angels, which constitute the supernatural machinery of the poem. But in this poem, there are sylphs and gnomes, and there is reference to salamanders, and there is reference to nymphs, which constitute supernatural machinery of this poem. And Pope's imagination is quite unique, and it is a sort of indigenous creation by Pope, which has resulted in the supernatural machinery of the poem. There are four supernatural spirits that are there in the poem. These are sylphs, number one, number two, gnomes, GNOMES, G is silent here. The third one is salamanders, and the fourth one is nymphs. As far as the creation of these supernatural spirits is concerned, or the birth of these spirits is concerned, Pope has employed Platonic theory, in which Plato argues that souls never die. After death, souls are shifted to the next world. Pope is of the view that after the death of women, their souls do not perish, their souls do not die, rather, they return to the four basic elements of which they are made. The four basic elements are air, water, fire, and earth. Now, Pope's idea in the poem is that there are women of different kind in this world. There are women who are fiery by temperament, who are quarrelsome, who are disputing in nature. After the death of such women, their souls shift to fire and become the spirits of fire, and their name is salamanders. So, salamanders are the spirits of fire. There are some women who are pleasing in their disposition, who are soft yielding. Their souls after death shift to water and they become nymphs, and they are called the spirits of water. Pope further argues that still there are large number of women who are quite mischievous and naughty by temperament. After the death of such women, their spirits shift to the earth, go to the earth, and these become the spirits of the earth and are called gnomes. And the last type of, or the last kind of spirits that Pope has referred to and which very actively participate in the action of the poem is sylphs. According to Pope, there are women who are flirtatious by temperament, who are coquettish by temperament. After the death of such women, their souls shift to the air and become sylphs. So sylphs are the spirits of air, and these are very much there in the poem, and these play a very vital, a very crucial role in the poem. When the poem starts, we come to know that there is an Ariel who is the leader of the sylphs. He whispers in the ears of Belinda that she is to face and she is to witness a horrible tragedy before the day comes to an end. And that sylph appears in the form of, in the shape of a gallant, in the form of a beau, in the form of a young fashionable man. And he is so much attractive and pleasing in his appearance and in his manners that Belinda blushes, and there is a feeling of shyness and coyness on her face when she is enjoying that slumber and that sleep. So this Ariel, who is the chief of all the spirits of air, tells Belinda that these spirits of air are the militia of lower sky. They protect the chastity and virginity of young women when there is every likelihood and every possibility that young women would be misled and misdirected or tempted or seduced. These spirits of air come to their rescue, and in one way or the other they save these virgins from losing their chastity and virginity. So these spirits should not be taken very lightly. This is what is informed by Ariel to Belinda in her dream. And this chief of the spirits of air designates different duties to these spirits of air. He is of the view that particular spirits should take care of the earrings, the watch, the petticoat of Belinda, and he himself would take care of Shock, which is the favorite dog, pet dog of Belinda. And this Ariel also warns the spirits that they must be very watchful and they must be very careful. If anyone is found negligent of his duties, he would be given eternal punishment. He would be pushed into gums, and he would be caught and trapped whole of his life in Bodkin's eye. And Bodkin's eye means that tiny hole that is there at the end of a needle. One of the punishments is that the negligent spirit would be transfixed and would be hanged with the help of a pin. So this is how these duties are assigned to all these spirits of air, and 50 chosen selves are appointed by Ariel to take care of Belinda's petticoat. We find out that Lord Baron clips Belinda's lock, and when he is about to clip the lock, all the spirits of air try their best to avoid or to avert that tragedy. However, Ariel, on close observation and on close scrutiny, finds out that there is an earthly lover lurking at the heart of Belinda. And this is what exposes her hypocrisy. This is what exposes her duplicity. And when this revelation and when this awareness comes to Ariel, who is the chief of all the spirits of air, he is quite dejected and he is in a mournful state of mind. So he leaves Belinda in the lurch, and he leaves her unassisted and unaccompanied, and he leaves her to her own fate, and he vanishes from the scene. After Belinda loses that favorite lock to Lord Baron, she cries at the peak of her voice, at the top of her voice. And this is the time for one of the mischievous spirits who is known to take advantage of the opportunity. So this gnome, which is the spirit of the earth, visits the underworld, and there she meets the Queen of Spleen. And this Queen of Spleen is quite jealous of all beautiful women. This gnome informs the Queen of Spleen that Belinda is a belly and she is a beautiful girl who despises her, who hates her, who resents her, and who shows disdain for her. Therefore, something must be done in order to spoil Belinda's beauty. And this Queen of Spleen gives two things to the gnome. One is a bag that is full of lampoons, abuses, and curses, and the bottle that is full of the force of female lungs, which means sighs and tears and wailings. Quite happily, this gnome receives these gifts and returns to the earth. And when she is there in front of Belinda, she opens up these two things, and all the furies come out, and Belinda is more provoked, and she is more agitated, and she is more frustrated, and she starts crying more at the peak of her voice. So this is the role of the gnome. Gnomes and sylphs are actively involved in the poem, but salamanders and nymphs are only referred to, and these do not become part of direct action. Viewers, I have tried to make things easier for you, and hopefully you would have enjoyed it. This is all for today. Thank you very much. Those who haven't yet subscribed, do subscribe my channel. Keep watching, keep following. Allah Hafiz.